Yes, students, let us begin with this chapter now. So, this is a small chapter, and mainly it has some parts to remember, and there are 2-3 techniques which you can use. Otherwise, it's a very simple chapter. So, first, I will finish up all the requirements of this chapter, and then you can note it down. See, the word polymers comes from, poly as in many and mer as in the parts. So, many parts of a particular substance are called polymers. Now, compounds formed by repeated unit of monomeric units, right? And with a mass of around 10 raised to power of 3 to 10 raised to power of 7 mu, that is called a polymer. Okay. Polymers can be classified into two kinds: addition polymer and condensation polymer. Now, addition polymer are also known as chain growth polymer. So, this is called chain growth polymer, polymerization. Okay. And here condensation polymerization is also called as step growth polymer or step growth polymerization. Okay. Now, usually when it comes to addition polymers, okay, pi bonds of hydrocarbons, they undergo polymerization, and we will see mechanisms of this polymerization either by free radical or by forming cation or forming anion. And once they have that as the initiator, and the reaction will further continue. Okay. For example, let me show you this. When it comes to ethene, n moles of ethene, if it polymerizes, it can give CH2 n times. So we call it as polyethylene. This is polyethylene. See, in case of addition polymerization, we will see there is no loss of any fragments. Fragments as in water molecule, ammonia, okay, ROH, etc. These type of fragmentations are not seen, which means whatever the initial molecular weight which you are taking would be same as the molecular weight of the polymer that has been formed. Correct? So that's how the addition polymerization happens. Now, this can happen by three ways, right? It could happen by free radical mechanism, cationic mechanism, or anionic mechanism. First, let us focus on the free radical mechanism. For instance, just now we have checked it out that if we have CH2 plus R2O2, this will polymerize to give CH2 n times. We call this as polyethylene, right? To initiate this, most of the polymerization reactions, when it comes to free radical mechanism, they are initiated by benzoyl peroxides. You can see this is benzoyl peroxide. This is the structure of benzoyl peroxide. How does the initiation happen? On heating benzoyl peroxide, the peroxy bond, which is weaker, will split into radicals. So it will split into radicals this way. So we'll have 2 moles of PH C double bond O dot. This radical is formed. This radical is unstable, and it would give a phenyl radical releasing carbon dioxide. Okay. And phenyl radicals are highly reactive, so thus that phenyl radical will react with CH2 here, and when it does, homolytic fission will take place. This radical will try to combine with it, and it will get PH CH2 dot. Okay. Now this PH CH2 dot plus n moles of CH2 double bond CH2. This, if it keeps continuing, we will have PH CH2 n times will keep continuing. Okay. Later we use a terminator, any of this molecules, to terminate that. Got it? So we can use any reaction like maybe O2 for instance. When we use O2, we can terminate this CH2, CH2N. Got it? And here we need, I mean this will terminate with this, giving out this plus O CH2, CH2N. Got it? And again this part will terminate. It will keep on happening till we get a molecule, and finally that is been terminated. Okay. So the point is we can use any particular method to terminate. Anyways, the initiation step is done by benzoyl peroxides usually. Then propagation steps are being seen where a polymer is formed, and eventually termination is being done. Okay. This is how the free radical mechanism is observed, which is pretty much familiar. Next, when it comes to cationic mechanism, we use a Lewis acid. We always use a Lewis acid like BF3 in this case. First, suppose in aqueous medium, what we can expect is that we will have this lone pair attacking on BF3. We should have O, H, H plus and minus. Okay, so this would release H plus, forming BF3 minus and OH. Okay, and that is sufficient amount of proton to start the reaction to initiate here. So what would happen if I take this as the reactant? Then this pi bond will attack as an electrophilic addition here, and when the electrophilic addition happens, we will get a carbocations, CH3, CH3 plus. What is this one? This is isobutylene. So isobutylene I am taking as an example for this. So electrophilic addition will take place, 3-degree carbocation is formed. 3-degree carbocation is formed. Right. So once you get this 3-degree carbocation, that 3-degree carbocation, right, will react with the next mole CH2, CH, CH3, CH3. Okay. Then this pi will attack here as a nucleophile, and it would have CH2, C, CH3, CH3 plus. Again a 3-degree carbocation is formed. Now imagine this happens for n number of times, n moles of CH2 double bond, C, CH3 and CH3. That would make us CH2, C, methyl groups here, and it will get polymerized to N. Okay. So this is how the cationic polymerization happens. We started off with isobutylene, so the product which we will get is polyisobutylene. Polyisobutylene. So I took polyisobutylene as an example in this case. Next, if you check out few examples which are similar to that, which are going through cation mechanism, check it out. When it comes to styrene, in case of styrene, we can have CH3, CH plus and styrene. This is the formation. And if you have n moles of that continued CH2 double bond CH, CH and pH. If n moles are been continued, so we will get this as CH2, CH with this benzyl group here n times. What do we call this? This is polystyrene. This is polystyrene. Okay. So polystyrene can go through carbocation mechanism and we can get this. So what we have to do, most of the time carbocation mechanisms are used, we make it in polar solvents like water. Okay, if you just check out, okay, in polar solvent we heat them so that they can get polymerized this way, And to initiate that, we take a Lewis acid. Okay, we don't want too much of acid because we don't want too much of carbocations forming here. Got it? So we want slowly the carbocation which is forming can interact with the uh, other monomers which are nearby. That's how the polymerization takes place. Okay. Now, sometimes we may expect that if H plus is given, okay, with acrylonitrile, this should also polymerize. Suppose if it happens by any means, I can get two things here. I can get this as CH2 plus CH2 C triple bond N, and I can get this as CH2 CH3 and CH plus and C triple bond N. These two can form. Now in both the cases, here also there is a minus I effect, and here in fact the minus I effect is even stronger. Got it? So both of these carbocations are not very stable. Got it? So especially for polymerization, if at all we are adopting a cationic mechanism, we have to make sure that the carbocation forming is very stable, like a tertiary or a phenyl group. Got it? Or maybe a CPM carbocation. Got it? An aromatic form of carbocation. These will give polymerization with carbocations. Otherwise, primary, secondary, right, with any species like that, they usually do not give good yield. Only they will give 2 to 3% of yield with carbocation or through cationic mechanism. Okay. We usually adopt anion or radical mechanism for those cases. Now, when you check it out here, okay, where is it? If you have a simple alkenes, first case, yeah, like this. When you have simple alkenes, right, here carbocation is also not very stable. We can definitely go for carb anion, got it? But pi bond easily doesn't react with carb anion, right? So that's why free radical mechanism is more favorable here. Okay, we take mostly an non-polar solvent and heat that to get this polymer. For that, now check this out. Suppose if you check out in this case, isoprene. Isoprene can also give good yield, okay, but the problem is can get CH2 double bond CH with CH3, CH3, okay, and H. Got it? So this is like a secondary allyl group. So it is actually stable carbocation. So it is stable enough, but if you see it in the radical form or if you see it in the anion form, that would be even more stable. So that's why this also prefers radical or anionic mechanism. Okay, we can say with this carbocation also we might get poor yield, got it, but when it comes to radical and anion we'll get good yield. Acha, if in generally if you have a carb anion radical and carbocation which is more stable, generally carb anion is more stable, okay, because it has octet completed carbon. This is just lost with one electron. This is octet incomplete carbon. So usually carb anions are most preferred mechanisms, then radicals and then carbocations. Got it? So we can say the yield for this would be poor. So poor yield is seen even in the case of isoprene. Okay, just 2-methyl 1,3-diene. So in case if you were asked a question, last year this was asked, like which of the following can undergo cationic mechanism. So you can check out. So, there are few examples like styrene given, right, and isobutylene given. They can easily go because they have a stable carbocation. Got it? Acrylonitrile doesn't go for carbocation mechanism. Next, if you check out anion mechanism, for anion mechanism, we will take a strong basic groups like this, R minus Li plus, right, which is organometallic complex. So when we take organometallic complex, because they are so strong nucleophilic in nature, in case if there are any supportive withdrawing groups, that will increase the energy, that will increase the reactivity of this CH2 here. So that's why, for example, if at all I take butyl lithium lithium butylene ion. Now this butyl ion will attack on carbon here, and that way it would go for anionic polymerization. Okay, and if it goes for anionic polymerization, what do we get? We'll get butyl connected with CH2 CH minus with C triple bond N. This is what we got, and this is helping this to stabilize the carb anion by minus I as well as minus M effect. Okay, so anion gets stabilized. So if you see the next mole, right, so this C minus which has formed will attack here, this pi bond will shift, right, sorry, this pi bond will shift onto this carbon, and this C minus again attacks for the next molecule. So we will have this as, this will undergo polymerization. Okay. So to give CH2 CH, okay, Cn, and this group will polymerize n times. We will remove out this butyl by some other reaction, correct? Because that can be terminated easily, once the entire polymer has been formed. What is this one? This is polyacrylonitrile, because we started off with acrylonitrile here, correct? Where is this? This one. This is an acrylonitrile form, right? This is acrylonitrile form, and that has become poly, so PAN, polyacrylonitrile, also known as Orlan. This is the synthetic fiber. Okay, so I hope you understood anionic mechanism here, right? Now when it comes to styrene, correct, styrene is stable in all the forms. You can see if you take a radical is also stable. If you take an acidic solution, it will form carbocation, which is stable. If you take R minus, carb anion is also stable. So that's why it will take the reaction in all the ways. Okay, I guess this point is clear. So styrene can polymerize in all the mechanisms. So depending upon whichever is economically more feasible, we will adopt that. Okay. Next, if you check out next type of polymerization, let us see about polyethene, which is low density polyethene. See, what is high density and low density polyethylene? Let us see that. Suppose if I take n moles of CH2 and react that at high temperature and high pressure, okay, in an aprotic, in a non-polar solvent around 1000 to 2000 atm, and this is the temperature at which we are pressure which we are maintaining, then we will get this as CH2 CH2, okay, n moles. Okay, to start with we will get high density polyethylene. Now how this HDP is different from LDP? Okay, books can use this way also, HDP without E, like this, LDPE or LDP are same. Okay, HDPE or HDP are same. Now initially it forms this way, correct, but over the time it will have some chain growth polymer also. For example, let's say this much it has grown, this much it has grown. Now again, because this is all done in free radical mechanism, some R radical will attack on this carbon, remove out this R, remove out this proton, and we will have this C dot. Okay, remove out this H radical and we'll have this C dot. That if it get polymerized, so it will have side branch polymers also. Okay, so this is the main chain and we'll have branches also on that. Okay, now what usually happens, check it out, in case if we have, in case if we have branches this way, the intermolecular forces of attraction between these would be decreasing, correct? Okay, but in the case of HDPE, the interatomic forces, intermolecular forces between them will be stronger, and they will be very close to each other. Molecules will be very close to each other. So that is why the density of this polymer would be more as compared to that of this density. So understand that if there are any branches forming, density will always be less. Okay, if the branches are less and it is more straight, the density would be more. Okay, so high dense polymer like we will use in making mugs, bottles, because their interactions are strong. While in the case of LDP, it is, we can only make this plastic bags which we see, right? uh, you know, poly bags which we use. So those are low dense polymers, they will have some branches. Got it? Usually if you do not use the right catalyst, if you simply keep heating, correct, so this HDP which is forming initially will immediately convert into LDP. Okay, so we need to use very good reagents for that to make HDP. Okay, so here you see, to avoid LDP, so to avoid LDP we use a very important catalyst called Ziegler-Natta catalyst. You may have come across this before also. For polymerization of ethene, you may have learned in alkenes. Okay, we take, you know, any non-polar solvent like toluene, and then we will react with trialkyl aluminium plus TiCl4. Okay, so here basically what happens is trialkyl, which is supposed to be like this, TiCl like this. Okay, and that when you treat with tri uh, triethyl alkyl, triethyl aluminium, so we will get ET get attached here. Got it? And this entire structure, octahedral structure, if it keeps on combining one by the other, it would look like a comb. It will have a comb like shape, what we call it as shape catalyst. You may have studied this in surface, right? So this would help, you know, to avoid the branches. Got it? So it will only polymerize straight. So this catalyst is going to help in avoiding any form of branches. So when you do use this catalyst, we will definitely get tough plastics which can be used as the cover for electrical appliances, bottles, buckets, mugs, toys, all of this. Okay. Right. So everybody understand this. So this was asked 2-3 times in JE already. Okay. So in JE mains it was asked once, it was asked in advance also. Like what is the role of LDP and HDP? I think 2014. Just check out. Okay. So read it. To increase the quantity of HDP, Ziegler-Natta catalyst is more useful. Next, what are the homopolymers? See, all the addition polymers which are of only one type of a monomer, right? This is only one type of a monomer, are called homopolymers. We are only using one type of a monomeric units. Suppose this is ethene, this will become polyethene. Polyethene is of two kinds, LDPE and HDPE. Same way this is propene, this is polypropylene. Okay, this would be polypropylene, which will be extended. Same vinyl chloride, this will become PVC, polyvinyl chloride. This is polyvinyl chloride. PVC is used in water pipes. This uses you must know. Simply in JEE means you would be asked what is the uses of, you know, the polymer. Okay. Next, isobutylene, polyisobutylene, that is used as simple plastics. Got it? Next, CF2CF2, okay, tetrafluoroethene, that is forming Teflon. You know that Teflon. Okay, so that is used as a non-stick coating. Okay, so this is acrylonitrile, acrylonitrile, and that is forming polyacrylonitrile. Got it? Which is used as an artificial wool. So homopolymers, I hope you guys are clear with this. All these homopolymers are addition polymers. Why? Because they are not losing out any residue like water or ammonia. They are not losing out any of those species. Right. So we've been learning about addition polymers, in which I just categorized what is homopolymers. Then we have copolymers also, which are addition, which means they do not lose their molar mass, but yet they are copolymers, means two or more than two monomeric units are being used. Okay. For example, if I take Buna S and Buna N, so these are copolymers. Let me show you how. For instance, Buna N. Buna N comes from butadiene. Butadiene, if you treat that with acrylonitrile, then we will get Buna N. N coming from the term nitrile. Okay, Buna coming from the word buta. Got it? Now, how this is, you can see, this is that buta. Okay, and from here the N part is coming here, right? Now, if you see that on heating, got it, with any suppose PHCOO benzoyl peroxide, if I use, right? So then it will make a radical mechanism here, and we can have this as formation of this double bond. So this double bond will be formed here, and this side will have radical forms. Okay, that would help to get this molecule to also form as a radical, and we will have this polymerization. We will have CH2, CH, double bond, CH, CH2, CH2, CH, and CN. That's how it gets polymerized to N. This is called Buna N. Okay. Buna N is a form of synthetic rubber. Correct? I hope all of you understood what is Buna N. Right. So it is coming from the word butadiene and then N, that is acrylonitrile. Next is Buna S. So this one is butadiene and S as in styrene. So it is coming from the word styrene. Okay. So you can check it out this way form, and we would have pi bond breaking here as radicals. You can have this as CH2, CH, double bond, CH, CH2, CH2, sorry, CH, and it is polymerizing with benzene group here, N moles. So this is Buna S. One with styrene, one with acrylonitrile. See, so far we have been revolving around ethene, butadiene, isobutylene, right? Styrene and acrylonitrile. Okay, practice mostly in this. All right. Now, if you check out both Buna N and Buna S, these are synthetic rubbers. Buna N mainly is used as because it would have resistance towards oils. Got it? So it is used as lubricating and organic solvents, and this will be used as the oil seals. You may see oils on the top. There is a plastic, there is a rubber holding which is there. That is made up of Buna N. Okay, and all the lining of oil parts, or it inside the lining, for important bottles where oils are stored, the lining is been made by Buna N. Same way, Buna S, if you check out, it is used as an insulating metal and footwear, all the chappals which are being made. Got it? Those are from Buna S. Hope you guys understood that what is Buna N and Buna S. Now the next form of rubber is natural rubber. Okay. So, well, this is a homopolymer only. Okay, because you are using the same molecule and polymerizing that. Now, if you see the stages of rubber, right, we take first latex from rubber trees, okay, and mostly they are found in these countries. Now, from rubber trees, we take the latex, and from the latex, we add water and boil it till it becomes a suspensionable colloid solution. Okay, and then usually we vulcanize it in the presence of sulfur. I'll tell you what is vulcanizing. So that's how we'll get vulcanized rubber. If you don't vulcanize it and directly polymerize, we can get a polymerized rubber as well. Okay. Now what are these two? Let us see. When it comes to this is isoprene, if you recall. Isoprene. Okay. So isoprene by name, we just discussed this. This has 2 methyl 1 comma 5 butadiene. Now if you check it out, when it comes to isoprene here, as it polymerizes, we would get this form. Okay. Now if you see how it is polymerizing, we can see the same thing here. It would get double bond formation here and dot, and this dot will start polymerizing. Okay, because this is a single bond, it can make a rotation also, so which means we can get cis product as well as trans product as well. Okay. So when it comes to natural rubber, it is more cis form. It has 80% of cis form, natural rubber. Okay. Again, the best catalyst that can be used is Ziegler-Natta. Okay. So in the presence of Ziegler-Natta catalyst, we will get cis form. If you want to get a trans form, we will use instead of, we were using TiCl4, right? If at all I use vanadium trichloride, if I use this one, then trans would come around 60% and cis will be avoided. Cis will be less. Okay. But if you use Ziegler-Natta, we will get cis, and natural rubber is a cis form. Okay. Got it. Now, usually in trees, well, we don't have a Ziegler-Natta provided there, right? It automatically polymerizes on its own to have some part of natural rubber. Correct. Even if it is not forming, if you just take out the suspensional colloid and heat it in presence of any peroxide, they will start forming mainly cis form, not transform. Transform we have to make it. Okay. Suppose if I make the transform, how does it appear? Transform of that natural rubber is called gutta pocha. Okay. Alright, so this is called as gutta pocha. So which means rubber that is used in cavity filling of root canal treatments. Okay, and this is how the transform looks like. So basically this group and this group should be opposite to each other all the time as you go towards this polymer. Okay, here this one and this one, if you check out, these two are cis form. Okay, in 2019 one of the questions they asked this structure. Alright, so just learn this structure, how it is formed, how the cis form is formed. Have you understood that? Yeah. Right. So this is the transform of that natural rubber. Now natural rubber usually is a little weak. That means its melting point, here I'll write, sorry, here I'll write, its melting point is around 35 degrees only, and it is slightly brittle in nature. Slightly brittle in nature. So as such, natural rubber we don't use it, got it? But we will use it as a vulcanized rubber. Okay. There was a scientist called Goodyear. Okay, it's a fancy name. So a scientist called Goodyear accidentally dropped this natural rubber on a hot plate with sulfur. You see the irony. I don't know why he was playing with sulfur. Yeah, he saw rubber got improved its properties. Got it? So he was able to see it was getting more strengthened, more stronger. So which means he realized that there must be some kind of a sulfide bonds forming. Okay, so he took the natural rubber and heated with sulfur. Okay, and around taking 3-4% of sulfur, as it heated, it started giving these branches. Correct. So at certain places, not at every molecule, okay, first maybe after every 10 units you can see one sulfur bond is forming like this. Okay, this has increased its melting point, you know, pretty much to 135 degrees. Correct. So that's how the melting point has been improved for it. Hope you understood that. And instead of brittleness, now it has most elastic properties. So that really helped the uh, natural rubber to get more strength. Okay. So I hope all of you got it. What is natural rubber? How it looks like? Okay. Next we have synthetic rubber. Neoprene is called the synthetic rubber, which we usually uses as auto tires, conveyor belts, and it would have resistance towards mineral and vegetable oils as well. Okay. So if instead of this CH3, if you just check out the difference here, there was a CH3 here, correct? In when you take isoprene, this was CH3. Instead of that CH3, if this is chlorine, then this is called chloroprene. Chloroprene. So chloroprene when polymerizes, right, and both sides as it get polymerizes, we will get neoprene. We get this as neoprene. Okay. So this neoprene is the synthetic rubber. Okay. And neoprene is also used, you know, exhaust. I mean, has a lot of applications. We will see they are used as auto tires and so on. So if you see the overall synthetic rubbers, what are all the different synthetic rubbers? One is neoprene, Buna S, Buna N and Buna S. These are synthetic rubbers, and what we just discussed is natural rubber. Okay. So that is all about rubber, guys. We have so far seen addition polymers where we saw there is no loss of water, there is no loss of alcohol or ammonia. Now we will focus on condensation polymerization. Condensation itself tells us that there is some amount of some part of or some fragment that has lost from that polymer. So when you have two or more different functional groups containing monomeric units, then we will see this kind of polymerization happens, and this is called step growth polymerization. Now you see small fragmentations like water, alcohol, NH3, they are lost during the polymerization and we get reduced to a total molecular mass of the polymers. So if you take the initial total mass of monomers, that would be more than the molar mass of the final condensation polymer. Everyone? Now, when it comes to monomers, what type of monomers usually give condensation polymers? Either they could be acids, amides, amines, esters, alcohols. These are the ones which are usually going to give us more of condensation products. Okay. For example, if I take phenol and treat that with HCHO, formaldehyde, we will get bakelite. We have seen this before also. Okay. Like that, let me take few examples now. If you take nylons, which are polyamides, okay, I can get nylon 6, nylon 6,6, nylon 2, nylon 6. Last one is a biodegradable polymer. We'll study about that. Now, nylons, what are their uses? They are used as ropes. They are used in textile industries. They are converted into sheets, raincoats, and so on. What is the content present in nylon 6? Check nylon 6,6. Check out. Nylon 6,6 will have adipic acid, you know adipic acid already, and hexamethylene diamine. So that is CH2 6 times with NH2 this side and NH2 this side. That is hexamethyl diamine. Now, as you react, I mean, when you bring adipic acid, and react that with hexamethyl diamine, right? They will dehydrate here with OH and H. So, acid and amine reaction will take place. H2O will come out and a connection is established, C double bond O NH. So, can you see it is like a peptide bond here? This is like an alpha amino acid, but unfortunately, this is not alpha position, but it is like a peptide bond only. So we will see we would check out C double bond O NH, which is an amide formation. So you can see it is very long chain, now 4 CH2 here and 6 CH2 groups here. So it is a very linear and long chain, and that's how if it gets polymerized, you will get uh, what we say a nylon 6,6 product here, right? So that type of a polymer, if you check out how it looks like, let me show you that, right? Here we will get this as, yeah, I have written it here, sorry. C double bond O CH2 4 times. This is how it looks like. Okay. Now in this polymer, you can see water is coming out, right? So if it is forming, n moles are forming this, so you will get n moles of water getting released. Think all of you clear on that? Next, that is about nylon 6,6. The term 6,6 comes from this 6 carbons here, 6 carbons here. So adipic acid also has 6 carbons. Hexamethylene diamine also has 6 carbons. So that's how the term comes from nylons, comes for nylon 6,6. Next, let us see nylon 6. Nylon 6 is only an extension of caprolactam. Okay. So if you check out caprolactam, this is actually a cyclic amide. Okay. Now when you take a 6-membered hexanone here and cyclic hexanone and treat with NH2OH, what we will see? We will see an oxime formation, and this oxime in the presence of any acid, Lewis acid, we will get Beckmann's rearrangement. So this bond will break, this bond will break, this pi bond will support here, and this group will leave. And then this carbon which is present will become C double bond O. That's how we will get this amide form. And this is called caprolactam. Okay, also known as cyclic amide. Now this caprolactam, right, on hydrolysis, first it will open up, right, and then as it polymerizes, both side we will see, this side there is an amine group, this side there is an acid group, it will get polymerized. Okay. So on both sides it will polymerize to give nylon 6. So where do we use? We use it as a tire cords, we use it as textile industry as well as to make ropes. This is the uses of nylon 6. If you observe one thing, I am using only one monomer here. We are using only one monomer. So is it a copolymer as a homopolymer? This is actually homopolymer. Okay. So it is a homopolymer which is also a condensation polymer. All of you understood what is nylon 6, right? So this was a question once given with this as a starting material. If you treat that 2-degree halide, cyclic halide with aqueous KOH, we know that it will form alcohol, and alcohol on oxidation with any of these, what do we get? We would get this as keto form, and once you get this keto form, we will get oxime, double bond NOH. Oxime in the presence of acidic solution, we will get caprolactam. Next polymer we will see is polyester. So what we have seen earlier was an amine and an acid reaction. Now we will see esters. Now polyesters can be obtained by polymerization of dicarboxylic acids and diols. Okay. Basically acid and alcohol, if you do esterification will happen, and esterification will give us an polyamides. So for example, if I take pteryl, okay, so this is terphthalic acid here. So this is terphthalic acid. Okay, that on treatment with glycol, both sides, if you check out COOH here, this side and this OH. Okay, if you recall from esterification, this OH and this H will be removed to make an ester. Again there is an OH. For the next molecule there would be OH here, that will get polymerized and it will keep continuing like this. So this is one monomer, n times would give us polymer. Okay, I guess this is clear. So this polymer is known as dacron or terylene. Dacron or terylene. So dacron and terylene is crease resistance, which means we can make wrinkle free shirts using this. Okay, it can be blended with cotton and wool very easily to give the strength. So that's why you will see all the t-shirts will have 60 to 70% of cotton and some amount of polyester. Okay. I guess you understood what is polyester. Next, this form was given once in JE recently. I don't know the exact year. So Gliptal, if you see Gliptal, now I am taking phthalic acid. If you take phthalic acid and react that with glycol, right, then it will polymerize this way. So at this carbon, here it was para position, here it is ortho position. So on ortho position it will start polymerizing. Alright. So Gliptal is used mainly for mainly in paints. So Gliptal is used mainly in paints. I think all of you got that. The next polymer we'll see is phenol formaldehyde polymer. We have seen in alcohols chapter about this phenol formaldehyde polymer. We have seen what is Novolag. See, Novolag is actually a linear polymer used in manufacturing of paints. Okay, and Bakelite is more of a uh, polymerized product for it. Got it? So which means this Novolag, if it get polymerized like this, we will get Bakelite. Okay. So for instance, if you check out the reaction here, how the reaction takes place. First, what we do, we add some amount of base to ensure that we have more reactive phenoxide ion. And once you have phenoxide ion, now that can attack. Now that phenoxide ion, suppose if you have OH here, so carbon would be enough reactive so that electrophilic aromatic substitution can happen. Okay, and once that is done, we can see OH, CH2OH can be formed, right? We can have many products like this. We can have ortho substituted, we can have ortho and para substituted, we can have both ortho substituted, or we can have all ortho and para substituted. So we can get all these type of products using electrophilic aromatic substitution. Then if we take this both ortho substituted products with remaining amount of phenol which you have, right, so that will keep condensing this way, correct, and we will start get this polymerized product. Okay, so in H plus you can see this OH2 can leave, carbocation can form, and this pi bond can attack here again by electrophilic aromatic substitution, and that's how we will get Novolag. Now if you see Novolag, we can have this para branching also here. So if this para branching is there, take 2 moles of that, react with 1 mole of this HCHO here. So this, here also we can have product form. Got it? So that's how if you get product, this one, if you get product with HCHO, it would form this way, and this is Bakelite. Okay, everyone, right? So just remember what is Novolag, what is Bakelite. Next we'll see urea polymer. Okay. Urea formaldehyde resin is one of the polymers that is formed here. Let us see. When it comes to urea, the lone pair present on nitrogen will attack on carbon, right? Here in the presence of acidic media, it will be more favorable, and we will get this as NH C double bond O NH CH2NH, C double bond O NH, and both sides, this side here, and as you get this as double bond O, and removing out that, where is it, NH, with this becoming CH2 and then NH, C double bond O, and it will keep continuing. Okay, so that way if you keep continuing here, so what do we get? We will get this as urea formaldehyde. Okay, note this, if it comes to formaldehyde here, we can have two forms actually. One is a simple linear polymer which is forming, and that is urea formaldehyde resin. The other form is that this melamine form is observed, which means if you take urea, okay, as you increase some temperature, dehydration can take place here within the molecule like this, H2O, H2O and H2O. And if you leave that, we'll get this form which we call it as melamine. So this melamine can further react with aldehydes to form the product. Got it? Everybody understood that? So basically this melamines, again from this lone pair, if you see, it would attack here, this will form OH, it will be removed as OH2, carbocation is formed, again the next molecule will attack. So that will keep on happening on all the three sides here, from this side as well as this side. This is called melamine formaldehyde. Okay. Melamine formaldehyde is used in particle board and plywood. Particle board as in the compressed wood which is made up of dust. Okay. So all the dust particles, if you take out and compress it to make a wood form, like what we use it exam pads, right? That is also a particle board or plywood. Okay. So this kind of a form will be used in particle boards or plywoods. Okay. While urea formaldehyde is used in non-breakable crockery. Just the name, the use. This much you have to, uh, you know, remember. Everybody got that? What is urea formaldehyde? Now, next you see biodegradable polymers. Here again amides, polyamides are used. Nylon 2, nylon 6. If you check out, this 2 here is coming from glycine. Okay. And this 6 here coming from amino caproic acid. So basically 2 carbons amino acid, 6 carbon amino acid. So these are the keys. You know glycine, we have just learned that it is a non-chiral center alpha amino acid, and this alpha amino acid, if you check it out, and how does the reaction takes place, let's see. This OH and H from amino caproic acid here and OH from the glycine, they would get polymerized to form this amide bond. Okay, and that if it get polymerized on both the sides, this side also we have H2, right, and this side we have acid, both will get polymerized here, acid and amine will get polymerized on this side, we will get nylon 2 nylon 6. Okay, nylon 2 nylon 6 is an biodegradable polymer. Okay. So very useful, because in case if the rope or the ropes which are made by this, correct, so if at all they are on earth, so they'll slowly degrade into smaller particles. Next one is PHBV. pH, this B is coming from butyric acid, V is coming from valeric acid. Okay, so beta hydroxy butyric acid plus beta hydroxy valeric acid. When you combine these two, right, we will get a copolymer of beta hydroxy butyrate and beta hydroxy valerate, right. So if you check out the name wise, right, so it is beta hydroxy, right, so it is the polymer of, okay, hydroxy butahydrate and valerate, correct. So that is PHBV. Now these two, when they combine with each other, then we will get PHB. Okay, and that is an ester form, because you can see this is COOH and this is an alcohol. So ester will form between these two. So OH here and H here will polymerize to form this type of an ester. So this is also a biodegradable polymer. So for our syllabus there are only two biodegradable polymers. Just the names will be asked. Okay, which of the following are biodegradable? Nylon 2, nylon 6 and PHBV. To just check out the exact name, beta hydroxybutyrate and beta hydroxyvalerate. Everybody got that? So these are the only polymers there for your course, correct? Now, check out how we can classify polymers. Polymers can be classified on the basis of source, whether they are naturally occurring and whether it has been made, which is semi-synthetic, or which is completely man-made or synthetic. All of these examples which we have learned, Buna N, Buna S, neoprene, nylon 66, terylene, glyptal, PHBV, these are all man-made. Okay, got it. Cellulose acetate, cellulose nitrate, these are using cellulose, which is a natural polymer, with acetate. Those are semi-synthetic ones. Okay, natural rubber is directly coming from the source of plants and animals. Same is the case with cellulose. Glycogen, which is nothing but amylopectin starch, starch proteins, these are all natural polymers. Okay, right. Now if you see, on the basis of structure, okay, on the basis of structure, if you check out, we have linear polymers, right? Just like how we have seen the polyethylene, so that is a linear polymer. Branched polymer, best example is Loden's polyethylene, right? Or cross-linked polymers, right? Like we saw that in Bakelite, melamine, formaldehyde resin. So there we saw that there was a cross links happening. So these are the three types of polymers which are linear, branched and cross linked polymers. The last classification is on the basis of intermolecular forces. Okay. We can have four types. One is elastomers, thermoplastics, nylons and thermosettings. Elastomers, they would have weak van der Waals forces of attraction. Okay, and if you try to stretch them or apply small amount of temperature, they would regain their structure back. Got it? Like if you take rubber and try to stretch it and leave it, it will regain back its elastic nature, right? The same thing happens with Buna S, neoprene, all of them. So because these are all rubbers. Okay. Thermoplastics, got it? They would have stronger forces of attraction, okay, and in fact they are stronger than elastomers but weaker than fibers, got it? Like PVC, high density polymer or low density polymers, so polyethylene, so those are thermoplastics. Nylons are the strongest. They will have very strong hydrogen bonding as well as very strong alkyl bondings, because you have carbon-carbon bond as a straight chain, and if the molecules are coming very close to each other, then they will have uh, what do you say, strong intermolecular hydrogen bonding also. Okay, so nylon 6,6, nylon 6, right? So these are polyesters. Okay, I guess all of you got this, right? Last one is thermosettings. Thermosetting polymers, check out, those are cross-linked, okay, and they would have covalent bonds like this. They will have actually covalent bonds in between. So those are cross-linked polymers. Cross-linked polymers are very sensitive to temperature. So in case if you increase the temperature, they will deform and you cannot regain back their structure. So this is one problem with thermosettings. So elastomers can be regaining its structure. Thermoplastics can also regain its structure. Fibers to some extent. Thermosettings are complete plastics which does not get regained. Okay. So for example, resin if you heat it, got it? So once it will shrink, you cannot change it into the same form again, right? So those are thermosetting plastics.